guys, if it's Friday, well, Blackie's back from the woods, so let's have a video. Okay, many of you have posted questions and concerns of what happened to Blackie. Blackie disappeared. I went to my gathering, and as you recall, my gathering was supposed to be April 6th through the 10th at Geneva State Forest, and that was the game plan. My good friend Vern and Pam and Mr. Walker, which are close friends of me and my wife, part of our little niche group, I guess you want to call it, family, they said that they were going to take their vacation. They were going to show up the Saturday before, which was the 2nd, I think. And I said, okay, cool, I'll come out and camp with you. Well, the Tuesday before that, which is actually in the end of March, a good friends of mine, Todd Gibson and Miss Leslie Gibson, were out there at the lake camping out because they weren't going to be able to come to my event. And one of them contacted me and said, there's somebody already set up out here for your event. That was fully a week before the opening day. And so I went out there, and sure enough, Mr. Chris, hello Mr. Chris, was set up out there. He'd come all the way down from, I want to say it was Michigan or Minnesota. I think it was Michigan. And I said, you know, you're a week early. I hope they didn't get the date wrong or something. No, I just want to make sure I was here. So we spent a few hours sitting and talking and etc. So finally on Saturday the 2nd, I came out and stayed. And other than having to come home to go pick up Miss Trinity, my niece, and bring her out, I was out there. And we had a great time. We had several trips to the military surplus place. But I was out there all day, every day. You know, if we were in camp, that's where I was. You know, otherwise I was going to the surplus place or going to get ice or something. That was it. And so I lived out of the back of my redneck camper, my beer budget camper, for 10 days. And so I've got a video coming this Sunday on my thoughts, ideas, improvements on the beer budget camper series. We're coming back and bringing some of that back. We have not gotten rid of the ground pounder. Don't worry guys, there's lots more of that coming. But April has really been kind of a bottleneck for me. And I've had so many things coming up where I've had my Master Woodsman's class, which is on the shelter series. We're in shelters right now, and this was on the tarp. And so I had that is due for my people that have paid me for that class. I've got 2 weeks or so to go before I have to do the next percussion revolver series. And we're going to be, for the percussion revolver, we're going to be doing that pocket navy that I showed in recent videos. We'll talk about it, and I've made some improvements. We're going to talk about that, accuracy, loads, talk about it. So I've got to get those videos in the can. Plus it's tax season. Plus, as many of you know, I try to answer as many of my questions and comments as I can. I try to read all of them. But when I got in, back from the camp, that first day back, I'll be honest, I took the day off. I had to mentally get back into the world again, you know what I mean? And it took me that, and then Wednesday I started getting back into it, and I had 2,645 comments to answer. People asking me questions, wondering where I was, or commenting on one of my 1,000+ videos. So yeah, I've been a little bit busy, and so I'm kind of behind the 8 ball right now, and I'm trying to roll back in. So hang loose with me guys, we're going to get there. But just hang loose, we are still going. Now for those of you that have paid for the Master Woodsman Shelter Series, that paid for the tarp class, it will be posted today the 15th. If there's any other reason, it'll be there on the 16th. But it's complete. I'm just uploading it. In fact, while I'm shooting this video, it's uploading now. If it hiccups or something, I may have to reload it. But it's coming. Don't worry. The Blackbird haversacks are, Blackbird 2s are on schedule. That we're looking at second week of May. So we're looking about 4 weeks from now is when I should receive them. and then I'll be immediately shipping them out to you. I will be announcing within the next 2 weeks, as soon as I get a green light to do the second run, I will be announcing and contacting everybody on that second run list that didn't get in on the first but want to get in on the list. I will be contacting you and giving you, if I haven't already talked to you recently, because I had a lot of you guys had commented while I was gone for the week, and so I've answered you. But if you've not and you're on that second run, in about 2 weeks I'll hit you up, tell you, here's the information, here's the date of it coming in, roughly. There we go. So you should be hearing from me in about 2 weeks, maybe less. It depends on when I get the green light. Okay? We're just waiting for the manufacturer to say, yep, ready to do the second run, and then we'll roll into it. Okay? Now that I've got all that housekeeping out of the way, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel. I cannot just, I mean, in all honesty, thank you to all the people that drove so far with gas prices so high to come and camp with me for a few days. It's really humbling, and I'm so very grateful for every one of you. And I tried to get around to everybody. I didn't get to stay any place as long as I wanted to, but I tried to get around to everybody and spend time with everybody. And next year we will do it again sometime in March or April. Several people have asked, can we do it twice a year? Once a year's wearing me out. We shall see. But it's a handful to do it. So we'll think about it. Now, let's talk about a little tip or trick today. After I came out, I was sitting there, I want to do some maintenance on one of my old hammocks. Now this is an old travel hammock. I think I picked it up at Walmart years ago. The ENO, Eagle Nest Outfitters hammocks, are basically the same idea. They may be a little bit bigger, but this is basically the same type. You understand what I'm saying? Well, one of the things you got to realize is with nylon, over time, especially those that have been out in the sun a lot, UV radiation breaks down nylon. It kind of oxidizes it, and it breaks it down slowly. So if you take a nylon hammock and you put her out there in the sun and you leave her, it may last a year, it may last a year or two, but eventually it's going to become stiff, it's going to become crinkly, and eventually it's going to tear and let you down. So if it stops being supple, it's time to retire it. You know, I don't mean the exact moment, but you get my point. And I have had this hammock since at least 2010. I know I posted a video with this in 2012, definitely. And this was when I did it for an overnight with a fire and a fire break back in 2012. So 10 years ago. The cord that gathers up the hammock, now what these hammocks are, it's a big sheet of material, and they take the end and they fold it over again, and they sew it real heavy, and that makes a tube. They then take a thick as your pinky rope, go through, make a lark's head, and lock to itself, and that's what's sticking out for you to hook your cord to. My rope had become suspect because it is as big as my pinky, but it is old, and it got really stiff to where it should be flexible, and it wasn't. It was acting like wire. Even though it's thick, I start losing confidence in nylon when it starts acting that way. And so I decided to replace it. And recently, someone gave me a pretty good supply of mule tape. So I decided to replace it and see what I could do with this. Now, mule tape obviously has got the strength and the flexibility. And what I did was I very carefully cut the existing rope that was there so as not to damage the hammock in any way. Okay? Now, as you can see, what this is, remember that's just a big old tube. Big old tube gathered up. And so I took a piece of coat hanger, bent it over, and I ran it through the tube. I then hooked mule tape and pulled it back through. It's a very generous, like 2 inches. So it easily went through that. Now to secure it, what I've done is I've tied a bowline hitch right there. Several reasons. One, it gives it flexibility. Two, it allows me to retie it or untie it if I need to for whatever reason. Okay. A bowline has the advantage of when you look at the bowline, and this is from the front, you see it comes up and it goes around the cord and it goes back. If you'll roll it around to the back side, if you'll simply drop it down and take that loop and roll uphill and pull this way, you can untie a bowline fairly easily. And the one thing about Mule tape is this. This was designed for industrial applications. It's got an 1,800 pound working limit. That's probably, it's well over 2,000 pounds real limit, but that means working limit. That means I can jerk on it with 1,800 pounds of force and it not give it up. And the fibers of it are running lengthways instead of sideways. So if you do get a tear or a nick or a cut, the whole thing doesn't just snap and fail. It's still got a lot there for load bearing. Okay, a lot of ropes and tapes are not that way. They're actually like sideways weave. And if you ever get a little nick, they just fray and fall apart. Mule tape is designed intentionally not to be that way, because when you've got a pile of electric wires going through this factory and you're trying to pull that wire through there, if that thing hangs a screw that went in too deep on a piece of conduit or a sharp edge or whatever, and it frays out, and now you got the wire and everything stuck in the middle of something, that's a lot of industrial problems. So they want this stuff as tough and as strong as possible. So for hanging a hammock, no brainer, it's going to handle it. So I replaced it with Mule tape. Now that's left me how long? I went ahead and gave myself 15 feet of rope, because most time whenever I'm using it in my deep woods, there's a lot of big pine trees. We're talking about pine trees that's like this big around, and so I got to be able to go all the way around it and hook up. And so if you got, I've seen, not this hammock, but I've seen hammocks show up with 6 feet of cord on the end of it. That's something the size of your thumb. I mean, 6 feet of cord, guys. You can't tie it much bigger than that before you run out of rope, and you can't get no stretch. And they got to hunt trees that are that close together. I want something I can vary for whatever my needs are, but I wanted it light. And so, without carrying a carabiner, now, those of you that have followed my channel know that for years I have done this. And what that is 550 paracord, military grade, that I have just gone and tied overhand knots, made a loop, okay? And I was using this to hang my hammock. I would go around the tree, come to where it came back together, open up a loop and pass it through to make a choke knot to cinch up to the tree, okay? And they work really, really well. I like them. And I'm still going to use them for certain things. But I want to get away from them carabiners, because the load-bearing carabiners that I'm buying are cheap. You get them at, you know, any place that has boat and trailer supplies, because it's the safety chain carabiner that's got a working limit of like 500-600 pounds, and it's for taking the safety chains from a bass boat or something and hooking it to the vehicle on either side of the boat hitch. So if the boat hitch did spring loose, you got something holding you back to it. They're incredibly strong, but they're also kind of heavy each, to the point that many times with my small hammocks and stuff like this, the carabiners, 2 carabiners weighed almost as much as a hammock and rope by itself. So I'm eliminating that. I've gone to just ropes. But when we're using mule tape, if I tie a real tight knot, I may not be able to get it out of mule tape, because mule tape cinches up so tight, it's going to be hard to untie it. So how am I going to hang up my hammock? I'm going to use a pair of timber hitches, because they're a quick release. You could use a Marline spike hitch, you could use several different things. But whatever knot you use, it has to be something I can untie. And if I just tie a tight knot and pull it blood tight in mule tape, it may pull down so tight I can't get it apart easy. So I'm going to be using twin timber hitches. Now I'm going to set the hammock up over here right quick, and I'm going to show you how I set up twin timber hitches. Okay, let's do that right quick. Okay, I'm going to be using this tree up close to show you the knot. So I'm going to go to that tree right there and tie the other end, and then I'll be right back here. Now all I'm doing there is just to hold it in place, okay? I want to stretch it out and see where my knots are going to end up. I want my hammock kind of evenly distributed. Now here's a tip. When you're doing your mule tape, take the very end where the knot is, color it, put a colored piece of paracord through the knot or something so I can look at it. So when it's all in this bundle, I can see the end. Otherwise it's just white on white on white. You know what I mean? Alright. So now I'm going to take my line, I'm going to go around, and I'm going to loosely come over the top, come back under. I'm going to make a big loop, and I'm going to go around, take that loop and go up and over 3 times. Just like that. I'm going to push it this way and I'm going to loosely pull it back. That's just to hold it on the tree so I can secure the other side the same way. I'll be right back. Okay, now I've secured a timber hitch to that side. You saw me twist it around my back and lock it. Here's what I did. I want you to see this up close. Okay, now that that end is solid secure, now I need to pull tension, right? So what I'm going to do is this. My line is come around the back side of the tree. I'm bringing it around. I'm now going to go over and pull it around here. Keeping it kind of loose, a little bit loose, not bad, see? You see where my loop is? I want that loop further. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more slack. I want around here on this side of the tree. Further past, if it's the knot is here, it's weak. Around on the side it gets stronger the further around the tree you go. Okay? So now again I'm going to give myself a little bit of slack to push it onto here. Okay? Now I'm going to make that big loop and I'm going to go under 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Notice how I ran it. So now the space between my 2 knots is that far apart. Now I grab the whole knot, kind of loose, and I'm going to pull it around behind the tree. Now I pull back. Now that's locked. Now what happens is these loops that have gone around the tree, they're adding tension to the tree. The tree itself, pinching it up underneath itself, is what's going to hold the tension. So I can't, do much more than that. And whenever I pull the load, this is going to pull tighter. So it is a choke noose. It's trying to come smaller, but it's also trying to torque around the tree at the same time. So it's not just restricting, it's trying to torque at the same time. I'm doubling my potential of mechanical energy by doing it that way. Okay, now I have the timber hitch secured at that end. I have the timber hitch secured at this end. I backed it all the way around the tree, and that one is back way around the back side of the tree. I've now grabbed this line and give it a good tug. It's good. Now I grab this line, grab that bow line, and give it a tug. It's locked. Now I can get in my hammock and have no worries of them slipping. They're going to bite the tree and try to twist on the tree at the same time. No problem. But getting them down, super easy. I'll show you that in 1 second. Now let's say I've been in this hammock all night. Let's say I got a tarp up and I went through a storm and these trees have rocked. Trees aren't just static, they move in storms. And so that pulls that line even tighter. So if I had some sort of square knot or something up here in this, I'm not going to be able to get that sucker down. When you got a couple of tons of pressure being applied to pull it tighter, how can I get it out with my fingers? But by utilizing a timber hitch. Let me move you around here on the side so you can see what's going to happen here. Here's the magic. Okay, here's that loop, and you see what's happening is it's caused the line to do this multiple times. So going through itself, it's acting like a constrictor. So the noose is trying to get tighter, okay? But by spreading it out and making sure that here is my actual going that way, it's halfway around the tree. Not only is it pulling it tighter on the tree, it's trying to twist around the tree at the same time. That's double the clamping force. That ain't gonna give it. So man, it's locked, it's rock solid. But to get it out is super simple. Remember this extra line? What I like to do with my extra line when I get done and it's up is I just make a loop like this. Remember that big loop I left? I go through it. Just like that and hang it there. That way it can't get sucked in anyway. But to take this down, all I gotta do is just take the original leftover piece of line and yank. And all those loops come out because that tape just, remember it's just a loop going around and it falls off the tree. No tension. So no matter how tight this gets, I can pull it out. This knot was used for hundreds of years in the logging industry. Back in them days, they'd take a great big old log, I mean a log, you know, size of a pickup truck, and they'd drop it down. These were guys with axes. And then they had these carts. They had these big, tall, 10-foot high sometimes wheels, and they were separated like 8-10 feet across on a shaft. So it's just two wheels and a big old tongue to hook to the horses. Here's the end of that log sitting there. They would back up these two wheels and tip the tongue way up, and they took a rope, a big rope, and the end of this log was jacked up off the ground, or they dug a hole under it to pass the rope all the way around, and they would tie that timber hitch, go up, go around, and triple or 4-time loop it underneath and cinch it. Now when they took that teeter-totter with them wheels and they pulled that tongue down, it lifted the end of the log up in the air, and they hooked a team of horses to it, and they drug it out of the woods with a team of horses. When they got it to the lumber yard, man, that piece of rope's under some tension now, you know. You're looking at several tons of a log plus several tons of horses pulling on it. That you wouldn't get that knot out. A timber knot, you would. You grab the end of the rope and pull, and it would just unwrap. Boom. You'd take the teeter-totter, drop the log down, tip up the teeter-totter to take the tension off the rope, grab that end and snatch, and it'd let go of the log. You could use that rope over and over and over. That's the reason that knot was used. And when I'm utilizing it like this to hang up my hammock with mule tape, I know it's locked, I know it's secured, I know it ain't gonna go anywhere. And it's one of those little knots you need to have in your box, because with this I can always quickly and easily hook to something, get a lot of power, and yet get it off in one move. It's a quick disconnect knot, where if I hooked a pickup truck to a log and drug it out of my way, I'm gonna use a timber hitch just like they did with the old horses, because when we get to the stop, I'm yanking that rope and it's gonna let go. Hope you enjoyed this, guys, and again, thank you so much for supporting my channel. If you've got a favorite knot you use to hang up your hammocks or whatever, tell me about it down there in the comments. Love to hear from you. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.